Welcome to another episode of the Smithereens podcast. I'm your co-host, Jared.
And I'm your other co-host, Tom.
And today we are talking about when advertising has worked on you. Tom, who do you have on today?
Jared, today we have two repeat guests and two partners, Rob and Colin, are on the podcast today. We're talking about advertisements, social ads, podcast ads, and the stuff that we've bought from those ads. Good ads and bad ads as well.
Cool. Well, everyone, thanks for listening and being here. Enjoy the episode.
Thanks, guys. So today we are talking about when advertising has worked on each one of us, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, being a branding and ad agency, we're usually people coming up with this kind of stuff, but now we're kind of, I guess, flipping it around, talk about what's worked on us.
Sure.
And so we've had a lot of conversations about this in the past, and I think kind of in passing, a big thing that we want to talk about today, I guess the different ways that we get advertised to and how those have a different effect. So like listening to podcasts, and we've talked about that at the office a ton. So I guess to get this rolling with you, Colin and Rob, what was maybe the last advertising that you received that you, in the very least, wanted to do more research about a product or even inevitably bought a product that you can remember?
Yeah, so for me, it actually was a podcast advertisement for a company called the Black Tux. This is not sponsored, so
yeah,
if they get business from this, then more power to them.
They won't. I promise.
Yeah. So they're as the name probably makes fairly clear, it's like an online tuxedo and suit rental company. It's similar, like for women, there's a like something called like Rent the Runway.
Rent the Runway.
Yeah. So it's like a male version of that. And I recently had to go to a gala. It does not have to be male. That's true. I went to a gala. I am not a particularly confident dresser when it comes to things like this. So
sure.
I was sort of dreading having to like figure all this out, and go to Men's Warehouse or someplace like that.
Some really horribly ill-fitting pants.
Right, yeah. And
it's God. Yeah.
And like it's so funny because you're
worst.
there, in person in that environment, and it should be like, well, we can measure you, and like your suit should be fitting great when you leave there. But like everybody's got their horror story of that not being the case. So I was listening to a podcast, the Ringer Network. It's a website, it's a podcast network. It's sports and pop culture stuff, but and it was the one host starts talking about it, and I was like, oh, well, I actually have a need for this right now, which I think is an important element in this. I did have that need, and I was like, oh, I'll go check it out. The website was cool, and ended up trying it. Awesome experience, and I'll definitely use it again in the
for
future.
all future galas.
All future
Is
galas.
that a frequent thing for you?
No, that was
So I have a question. So like, when did you order the tux from when you first heard the ad? Was it like you heard it was like, oh, I need this for like next week, let me go on the website? Or was it like you listened to that podcast months before and it kind of popped back into your head?
Great question, and the answer is like it was months ahead, I would say. But then like as this event is rolling around, my wife is lovingly reminding me that I need to find a solution for this, and she knows that I'm not necessarily good at it, and I always end up scrambling like the day before. And
good at solutions.
Good at the dressing stuff for weddings, or so even just if it's a regular suit. But this was like legit black tie, which I just that's super rare for me. Like
you don't own a
It's
tux?
rare for most, I'd say.
I do not have a tux.
I mean, come on, the three of us, we all have our own tuxes, right?
That is true.
No,
I do own a tux.
I don't.
Okay.
Rob actually does.
Yeah. Oh wow,
I do.
I was trying to do a bit, but okay.
Yeah,
fair enough. This
Rob,
guy, Gala fan number one over here.
Never been to one that required it.
Rob just puts on his tux on a Friday night and go through like the Wendy's drive-through, like, hey,
Getting back from one of those black tie events. You know what I'm saying?
Again.
And then he just takes the Wendy's and throws it out. I just want people to see me. I don't care about the food. So,
Between this and the car, it all makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, Colin, you bring up a good point because, like, as podcasts are gaining in popularity, obviously the need to advertise in that avenue is definitely picking up steam. I think, like, I started listening to, like, one of the first podcasts I started listening to was, like, the Joe Rogan podcast, and, like, every like episode he has like one or two that he always shouts out, and a lot of it he does have interest in, like he's part owner of like on it and stuff like that, so obviously there's an interest in that, but like now he's starting to incorporate different companies that, because this podcast is like one of the most popular ones I think streamed like worldwide, so people are kind of catching on that this is you're getting people who listen to content pretty much every day, and especially a person like Joe, that podcast produces like an episode once a day, it seems like,
Well, and he's a person.
Right.
So it's like when it's advertising, I know they're paying for it, but it still seems to like psychologically like it's a personal vouching for the product, right? So it's like, this guy, it's like they wouldn't just take money for the advertising. Like, hell yeah, they would. Of course they would.
Right.
But like, they do a good job presenting it.
And I
think
you can tell, like, I've been listening to podcasts for, I don't know, years now. And like
big podcast guy over here.
Years.
I am
like 2.
No, man, like
I know.
Like 6. Yeah, I got into them in like 2013. And
Pod God.
Pod God. Pod bod. All right. Anyway, so I remember the podcast I was listening to, so like comedy ones, so like there's my brother and me, which is one I was a fan of for a long time, Comedy Bang Bang, and WTF with Mark Maron. And honestly, like I would kind of look forward to the ads, funny enough. Like they offer a lot of Premiere, a bunch of different podcasting offer Premiere subscriptions where you get the podcast without the advertisements. I kind of liked it because they would do their own like funny take on like whatever they were given. And so it kind of made it more entertaining. But honestly, I don't know if they were thinking of this with that, but it also made me remember. I can remember like half the brands on podcast. Like Blue Apron was one of like the ones that was like a long Lisa Mattress, like all these different things, and they're now like embedded in my head.
Right.
And I even tried Blue Apron. Because Scott Aukerman, the host of Comedy Bang Bang, kind of like talked about like using it and actually enjoying it, and had his own story of using it aside from the advertisement. Whether or not that was true, he could have just made it up. But it like hooked me, and I was in for sure.
I think podcast advertising is very narrative in its form. They all tell the story of like, so I know you're busy because I'm busy too, and you're probably listening to this podcast while you're doing 3 other things.
Yeah.
Make one of those things not be figuring out what you're going to do for dinner. I tried it one night and blah blah blah. It's like they make a story out of it. Like,
that's not like it's been done.
Sure.
It's been done on radio. Like when you look at like we've done it here, right? Where we look at like, okay, we're gonna do a radio media play for like for a client, and they're like, okay, what do you want to do these times? Is it you record your own commercial? Is it a jingle? Is it like is the host gonna rep the product for you? So like that's been done. I think like it feels a little. It's just they're paying, you do it, and it feels like, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it feels like there's more control on a podcast, like of brands that you take on, if you really truly believe in it or not. Like so, but I know it exists all over the radio, and I think what podcast hosts have been able to do with it is tell a story that's different than read the script.
True.
It's like they're going to write their own script. They're going to truly believe in the product, or they're going to do a thing like
have like a.
I listen to a lot of podcasts
something.
too, and they try to do like a bit around it.
Yeah.
And actually, I find that kind of interesting because it's they don't like. Sometimes it comes off to me like they're just making fun of the product.
Sure.
And I'm like, man, if that was my product, I listened to this, I might be like, I'll pull the plug on this.
Yeah, but you might, but
it helps me remember it for sure.
Exactly, and I think that's like the key thing is like I don't listen to the radio that much, but I do every once in a while. I couldn't tell you any of the last like 100 commercials I heard on the radio. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's an inherent numbness to that of like we talk about like banner blindness with like online sites and like ads and stuff like that, where people are kind of like accustomed to seeing certain things. And I think like maybe with radio being as long of a running platform as it is, you kind of have blindness to like, oh, I can hear the jingle come on from a commercial, or I can hear blah 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 come on, and maybe like tune it out a little bit. But I mean, I haven't heard a podcast that has like audio running from a different source that isn't like the host talking about the product itself, which I think carries the most weight in this whole conversation.
Agreed.
Yeah,
It's
me
like,
too.
You have Mark Maron or Joe Rogan or whoever really talking about, regardless of if they even have a personal story with it, they're talking about it. That's just
It
gonna
feels
stick in.
non-disruptive.
Yes, exactly.
You listen to hours of content from these specific people narrating stories with guests, and like they are talking about a product. You're like, okay, cool. Like it's in a voice that sounds familiar to you. So, and there's like a psychological thing where it's more trusting at that point. You're not like,
Yeah.
oh, let's pause for commercial. So you hear this completely different
Yeah.
voice tell you about the X product. No, you're still in that
exactly.
same lane of like comfort when like someone is kind of talking to you about it.
Right.
It's almost like receiving a recommendation from like a friend. Like, hey, check out this band. I really like it. You do? Yeah, check them out. And it's like getting that recommendation, like that word of mouth from that person that in your head you feel like you trust.
Yeah, it's more personalization, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, so we kind of we talked about this, which stemmed from Colin's last time in the advertisement. Spoke to you when you actually sought out a product. Rob, what was the last time you saw an advertisement that like caused you to buy that product or at least look into that product?
Yeah. So I've never actually bought a product in real time, like click on learn more, click on buy now, and done that. Like,
Okay.
through an ad ever.
Okay.
It's not that advertising doesn't work on me. I just like take it further.
You
I
mull it
suppose.
over, maybe?
So, but I had been on the search for some sort of like a phone, like what's the term? Like I could like stick my
Holder?
phone like a holder, I guess, like to my dashboard and like have it
Okay.
up there visually for me.
Sure.
for whatever reason. And time out. I don't think my audio is picking up.
It's picking up. You're just on Colin and I'm on Rob.
Interesting.
Oh. Sorry, that's weird. I don't know why it's doing that.
I noticed it before because you made a little clicky noise and I was stone silent, and Colin had a little dot and Rob did not.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
No, my bad.
okay.
Time in. So one of those phone holder things
Yeah,
for your
yeah.
car, what was in your dashboard or whatever. And I've been looking for one, and I could not find one that I really liked. I wanted it to be like super easy. I don't like the ones that you have to put like a magnet inside your phone or whatever. All that stuff.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it, and I like to think I'm pretty good at finding the right product and like vetting a bunch of them and saying like this is like probably the best one. And I got served an ad on Instagram, like and this interrupted my story, and I was like, that's exactly what I've been looking for.
Wow.
I couldn't find it anywhere.
There you go.
Yeah.
But you didn't see that and immediately jump in, even though you'd been looking for that?
I went to it. No, I hadn't seen it at all. That's my point.
Oh, you're right.
Until that particular brand, that particular product,
Gotcha.
it hadn't been on my radar, and I don't know why, but I guess I wasn't trying hard enough.
There you
but
go.
it showed up in my feed. I checked it out, and then I went and bought it somewhere else, not through them.
Okay. Gotcha.
I don't know why.
So I guess this extends to, good job, Colin. I guess this extends to another topic that we had within this, which is like curated social feeds. So things that are tied to either what you look at. So like I think Instagram is something that's probably popular for all four of us here. And getting served ads either based off of what you look at or what you search for in Rob's case. And so, Rob, I mean, after that experience, would you say that you're pretty pro that, like getting a social feeds that are full of things that directly correlate to what you're interested in?
Yeah, super for it. We talked a lot around this just in pre-production stuff, but like when I think about like retargeting ads or contextual ads or whatever, and we talk about it with clients all the time, and some people get scared about it. Clients don't care when it's like their ad showing up.
Sure.
If it's like, oh, it's going to be like that ad that I saw for that pair of sneakers that I looked at yesterday, and now I see it again, and it's following me around. Well, that seems kind of annoying. Well, if it works, do you care?
Right.
Person who runs X business, whatever.
Sure.
And I think it's more about, I think it's good for the world that we have an opportunity to be served ads that do apply to us, our interests, or whatever. And I can't imagine I mean, I would not be on any social network right now if I was getting served ads that didn't apply to me whatsoever.
Sure.
And I have like reported or like declined other ads that I'm like, why in God's name am I receiving this thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, this is unbelievable. And I just feel like I got on some list, or I don't know what it is, but yeah,
wow.
I'm off it.
Yeah, I think it depends for me. Like, I kind of like getting served Instagram ads sometimes, but a lot of times I really don't, because it's not like they don't really pertain to me, and like I know it's like an algorithm based on what I've looked at, but like sometimes I just want to creep on some stories, not get served ads while I'm doing that, So it's like I think the last thing that I bought from Instagram was like the body scrubber thing. It was like $10, and I was like, cool, it's enough for me to make a decision and buy it. But a lot of times when I see like even articles of clothing, like you click through on that ad and you try to see like some customer reviews or comments, and there's like really limited stuff. But a lot of the apparel especially is super expensive. So that kind of like deters me from kind of buying that. So it just like, it works for me sometimes it really doesn't,
But I mean, at least it got you interested in the brand. You know what I mean? Like these avenues.
For sure. And I think there's different plays in advertisement too. It's like a brand recognition thing, where like, Nike has really awesome commercials. They're really not telling you to like buy this sneaker. They're just like trying to invoke like an emotional reaction for you to kind of, respond to the brand. They're not pushing you to something. They just kind of get that in your head. And obviously there's some ads out there that just like want you like, hey, we got this, come buy it,
Sure. That makes sense. Colin, how do you feel about social media advertising, getting retargeted ads, and
I mean,
everything we've been
I'm
talking
all for it. I think that I couldn't possibly do what I do professionally and like feel like an ethical human being if I didn't think that there was value in it.
Sure.
A bit before you mentioned like the word personalization, which I would challenge a little bit, that I don't think that podcast advertising or radio advertising is personalized. There's targeting, like, okay, if my product makes sense to the audience that listens to this, there's that. But digital stuff and retargeting stuff, like, that's real where true personalization really takes off.
Yeah,
I'm like interested in that from a storytelling perspective. And so this idea of like just really putting people into funnels, and that sounds so shitty and cynical to an extent, but it's even what you're talking about. So I click through and I'm like, oh, these pants are just too expensive. But like that action that I took to get to that page can still be recorded. And so then, and if I took any other actions on that site, so let's say like I went to that, pants are a bad example for this, but I look at a lot of like software solution stuff. Tuxes, tux pants.
Big tux guy now.
No, but like there are certain actions that correspond fairly closely with like points in a decision-making cycle, a buying cycle. So like oftentimes for software, things like that, it's like visits to a pricing page might carry more weight, right? So like maybe I get served up an ad and I get to that site, and then I'm poking around. I don't make an immediate purchasing decision, but they put me into maybe a few different funnels, quite frankly. Sure. And then all of a sudden I'm getting ads sort of around the same thing, but now they're trying to talk to me about the price.
Right.
And they're trying to say, don't worry about the price or whatever. But like like clearly like they were paying attention to what I'm thinking about with the product, and like it's like, look, if you're gonna do some of my homework for me, and like that's I don't want to be naive about it, because again, they're selling a product, but
right.
It's just, it allows you to you sort of curate your own feed.
One of the things that I've seen there is like maybe it's a bit of a tip. If you're willing to give away your email address, do it, or have that email address that you'll do it with. Yeah. Because it's non-disruptive for your day. Oh, you don't know. cdwhitman@gmail.com. You do know. No, but if you give your email address away and you actually are interested in the product, but you like are patient about making your purchasing decision, and don't do it in that moment, right? Which usually I'm not if I'm interested enough, but do that, give it away, and then they'll like the third email into some funnel, they'll probably give you like a bigger discount than you probably could have gotten originally from the original click through.
That is, man.
So just chill, give it a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Trust me, they will email you and try to get you in.
Yeah, I feel like that. Like a lot of companies. So I think was I on Lisa? I was actually. I may have been on Lisa's site because I feel like they're advertised. Mattress companies, for some reason, really leaning hard on like podcasts ads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Casper, Lisa. There's at least like 2 others I can't think of right now.
The cost is probably low at this point. You know, as podcasts gain popularity, I think those costs might go up, obviously. But I feel like now, especially if you have a podcast that's
I
like,
think you'd be surprised, man. Like I think the spend is a lot higher because, like I said, like you're getting Joe Rogan or Mark Maron or whoever to actually like read these ads, and so like I don't have like the data in front of me, but from last time I looked it up, like it is a lot more expensive actually to advertise on podcasts. But if you're a newer company and you have maybe some backing like a Casper or Lisa, and you're kind of a new way of doing something. Or what's Stamps.com? That was like a big one where they leaned in hard on a new media and said like, well, like we're just going to throw our money in this basket because this is where things are headed.
Yeah.
And like it makes sense. And now like I said, like people, if you listen to podcasts, I'm sure between everyone here, we could all come up with like a list of brands we've heard on multiple podcasts. You know what I mean?
Well, the conversion data on podcasts is unbelievable.
right.
Like they make so many transactions happen because of podcasts, and they directly, they have your promo code or whatever that like is tracked there. So like that's why they're doing that. Like that's why it costs more.
Do you have this data?
A podcast that I was listening to talked about how they're making money based on advertisers, and how their data is different because they have like a loyal following, but it's not as big as some of the bigger ones because they're like a mid-market one, and so
Right. It is kind of hard though. Like I kind of equate like podcasts. It's almost similar to like print advertisements where there's a some sense of the data that you have for your market, right? But if I'm listening to like a podcast on SoundCloud or something, and I'm not logged into an account, or I'm listening to it on whatever. If I listen on my Apple account, and I don't have any of my data associated with that. There's only so much information that you're going to get about a listener base. And it's kind of a similar thing with like old style media. There's only so much information that you can kind of have to make those kind of like advertising decisions. And I know that we've worked with a few like clients who have utilized like old media. And so I'm kind of curious maybe on our end, like what goes into that, like making those decisions of like, all right, if their demographic is this, and they want either like an ad in the news or an ad on a billboard or whatnot, like what goes into the kind of maybe figuring that out of like what the messaging should say or how it should look and to speak to certain demographics.
I mean, from like the decision to be in those placements from a front end is often driven by budget. Like
Okay.
Those old media things are super expensive, so the barrier to entry is just very different than, give us. We always want the biggest budget we can get for advertising purposes because that buys you the biggest megaphone.
Sure.
But you can make some hay in digital with $100 if you use it correctly, right? Like whereas you can't. I can buy like, the letter I in a newspaper for $100,
Sure.
like on one page, and you can't do that obviously, but and so it's the budget there to a certain extent. The experience that we've had, it's clients that kind of want those placements, so
Sure.
they're telling us to explore those things.
Yeah. Where does that kind of come from? Like that desire? Not to cut you off, but
I think it's a bit generational, I would say. So it's clients where for them they grew up with newspapers or radio ads as a big thing, and so that's what they feel is.
Sure.
One client, we did some radio TV stuff. Their audience are people that are not necessarily digitally savvy. There's still a lot of that. Like,
Sure.
We just had a client in today that's talking about phone book ads. And it's like a plumbing HVAC thing. And it's like, okay, people that, like everybody that if you own a house, you might have a problem in that.
Sure.
And along generational divides, like you might pull out the phone book and go to plumber and pee.
Over
right?
the age
like,
of 60, there's still tons of people that own houses that are. It's not like everyone owns houses like is consuming younger media, right?
Sure. Right. And it's not like there's not a single 25-year-old out there that doesn't look at the phone book, but so
there might be.
But that's it. I mean, I don't think I've looked at one in 15 years. But
I get it delivered, and I immediately throw it in my recycling bin.
yeah.
Well, I think the trickiest thing is when comparing, like, we talk about, like, oh, podcast conversion rates are high or whatever. Like, there's all different podcasts. Like, we're one, sort of. Sure. Like, are we grouped into that? Like, I don't really know.
Trying.
I think when we think about that, we think about the big ones.
We need one advertiser. We need one sponsor first. Then we can make a decision.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you have a client that comes and says, all right, well, what are my competitors doing? And it's like, well, are you paying attention to them? Because there isn't like necessarily public. So if we have like a middle-sized client or a small business, it's like, look, there isn't like public data on a company that is this category within this category within this category in the state of Texas. It's like we can't find that information.
Yeah.
You know, so look around. You know, and there's a lot more manual research that needs to go into that, and also asking that client, like, what are you seeing? Like, you're in this every day. Why are people choosing your competitors over you, and different things like that? So,
you need to get that knowledge out of them.
Yeah,
to make those kind of decisions.
Yeah, I have like tangentially related thing. I recently got a direct mail piece. So, which is like old media, and it was not too long ago we became members of the Buffalo Museum of Science. It's something to do. I've got a 3-year-old son, something to do on the weekends, you know, all good. But so along with that, it's like you get joint membership with like TIFF Nature Preserve. And so, you know, they just send out, it's sort of like a monthly direct mail newsletter with a bunch of programming and such, which I would never know shit about if I didn't get this piece of direct mail. But I'm like reading through it, I'm like, oh, this sounds fun. This sounds good. It's like a evening like nature walk with like cocktails.
Ooh.
And I'm like, okay, great.
well, it's South Buffalo, so that's like probably Jenny.
Maybe. Which is fine with me. Yeah. Like,
Right, which is like all the more reason to go.
right. Yeah.
Just as romantic.
Like Jenny over ice.
1 cube.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin the flavor.
Gotta rent another tux.
Yeah, maybe. There's something to be said though, and I like this idea of like matching strategy to vehicle in terms of advertising. Like, direct mail that I don't ask for, like Veil Pack, I like just never even give a second thought to. I just throw it right out. But
same.
You know, I go through the pile of mail. There is still that. Like, you have to look at your mail because there's stuff in there that you need. So you do.
Sure.
You do buy at least 1 second of people's attention with a direct mail piece, and I'm somewhat opted into this list because I did have that membership, so them making me aware of their programming.
Right.
Well, I thought that was a really smart use of direct mail, and direct mail is not cheap. Just
right.
Nothing is cheap. Literally nothing is cheap. I don't want to position digital as the cheap alternative. It's just more accessible. So.
Well, I feel like to that point too is like if I'm a huge company, you know, like. We're just talking about execution, right? Like, but it still takes a huge budget to create a lot of these assets. Like, you know, let's say if you're like a retail brand, right? Like, you're still spending money on creating videos, no matter if you put them out on, you know, television advertisement, you know, Facebook ads. You're still creating those assets to kind of be used multi-purposely throughout your various channels. So it's like, for me, what grabs me with ads are the kind of complete message, right? Because you might only see one fraction of like that story, depending on which vehicle you're watching, right? But like you see one commercial on, let's say, like a YouTube, like, you know, before your video plays, and you see the same message in a different format on like Facebook. Then you're all like, it just stays top of mind, and it kind of creates you like make a stronger buying decision because you feel like that company is uniform. You know, like I'll probably be less inclined to buy something if I just saw like a 30-second ad. I'm like, okay, whatever. But if I'm like constantly being reminded like along the way of like and it's like a little bit different, but it's like still the same message or the same product. Like, it just gives me that much more oomph to kind of make a buying decision.
Yeah, I mean, there's a traditional principle of like 7 touch points that at a minimum that are necessary to inspire action in something like this. You know, I think the real number is actually probably much higher than 7, particularly in the hyper segmented world and the sheer amount of advertising we're all faced with.
Sure.
That's what it's the consistency of message in that makes you want to buy.
I wonder what we'll see we'll see that data shift, like with digital, with targeting, with all that, because you know there are people who one Instagram ad interrupts their story and it's exactly what they need in that moment, they're like, okay, bye.
Sure.
That's one thing. And
Sure.
that type of media like allows for so much more of a story to be told, because it's got video, there's more text. You're
Sure.
like, you swipe up so it doesn't feel like a click. You know, like all that stuff is like psychologically changing your decision. And
Right.
you just have like, you have this much time to capture someone, but you can throw all these things at them. Whereas you're driving by a billboard and you're just like, that's it.
Yeah, right.
But you drive by that billboard every single day.
Sure.
Well,
That
you
too,
may.
right.
I mean,
but that's why I'm saying, I'm talking about frequency of how many
Right.
times you need to see it.
Right.
Sure.
And if I'm just traveling through town on a vacation, I don't see that billboard every day.
Yeah.
So, but like, if that's my commute, though, of course I see it every day.
You think like
Yeah.
the with digital boards and with like, you know, people being able to like control it from their mobile phone now and like change them as often as they want when it's raining, when it's sunny, whatever. Think we'll ever get to the point where somebody's just driving down a highway and their phone sends data to a billboard so it shows them an ad that relates to them.
I mean, man.
So, I mean, as cool as I am with like a curated social feed from advertising, that sounds like a fucking dystopia to me.
Yeah,
For sure. That's like,
That's a
like
little
too much.
1984.
So,
I'm not saying I want it. It's just
Yeah.
like pretty
Yeah.
wild.
I mean, well, what I was going to say, I mean, like, you know, they're not like no one's going to stop collecting more data. If there's more data to be had about every individual, like, you know, advertisers will follow it. I mean, I worked in like the e-commerce like sector for a bit, and like that was all about like how much information can we get from someone as soon as they visit a page. So we just have them. We know who they are. We know kind of like what their demographic is. And it's always kind of like phrased, and I think especially in the past couple of years, in this like big brotherly way of just like, well, they have all my data. And I, as someone who's worked in like e-commerce, I'm like, people just want to sell stuff to you. Like, no one cares about whatever your private tabs were open on Chrome last night. But
Or do that.
well, someone might. But like for the most part, they just want that data so they can like really accurately see what demographic you fall into. So when they serve you that ad on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, like it is exactly the messaging that they want to hand off to someone that is your age, that likes the things that you do, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I do think, and again, even though I already said that I support that, I think you could build a case, like, to claim that is somewhat like corrosive to the fabric of society, because then all of a sudden we're just all being served up messaging that's tailored for us, and we all just live in an echo chamber.
That's
And
true.
it's just so,
Like I completely agree. Like my thing is like, you know, I want to buy things, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I want to buy things that I think that people will think I'm cool for buying, right? So like if I'm only getting served up ads of things that I like how do I know if other people are gonna like it? I want to be served ads that like the masses are being served, so I know what's kind of on trend and what's on
and to be
brand.
fair,
Well,
man,
you have
that's-
go ahead.
I was gonna say like that, like algorithms are getting smart enough to be able to see like, I mean, like it goes beyond just like, well, if you like this, you'll probably like this because this is a related product to X. Like it's gone far beyond. It's just like, well, you have purchased these several things, and I know that information. So based off of that, and based off of what other people have bought that are in those same categories, like I think it'll get. I mean, it can't not get smarter in that way of like, not just. I think we're stuck in this weird thing where the ads that I feel like I get on social for the most part feel very expected. I make music. I look up like music gear and stuff. So I get ads for like new audio plugins or software, or like, you know, whatever, bands that are bad. But but like I'm curious to kind of see where it'll extend, where you can really start doing like a match to some like other people, and like, well, this person who's bought like at least like half the same things you have has this, and you've never even like tried to seek that out before.
Think about it like a subscription service for clothing or something, where you set your preferences, and then like each month you're sent, you know, dress clothes, or you're sent tuxes, or you're sent, you know, t-shirts or something like that, depending on what your preferences are and how they may change. So I mean, it's never going to stop curiosity and people being interested in other things. So like, not that we're ever like all that serious about it being like super dangerous for the world.
Right.
Like it's flirting with it a little bit, but it's never going to like stop somebody's
Do you
curiosity.
think industries would kind of go the opposite way? Do you think that like people are going to be so sick of like giving out their information that they might kind of like pull back? And I kind of bring that up because I thought I did something this week that I didn't think I would do for the rest of my life for a long time. I pre-ordered a compact disc. And I didn't think I would do that, but the rollout of this was so great, and they kind of packaged it with like things I wouldn't be able to get digitally that I spent like the $15 and I pre-ordered it.
That's crazy. I only say that's crazy because I don't think at this in 2019 I have anything that can even play a compact disc. Nope, I don't. My
I thought about it right there, and I'm not.
I don't.
Except for my Discman.
So do you feel like do you feel like as like the axis of supply and demand tilt? I mean, I would think that print might become, more budget friendly in the future as a lot of companies move digitally. Do you think that like there might be some rebels out there who stay driving that print train and like kind of target people through that avenue?
Yeah, 100%. It's like the reemergence of record stores.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
like Amazon is ruling the world, but like we're seeing brick and mortar boutique stuff pop back up because it's that curated experience in that way. So yeah, it's all gonna change. And like there are limitations to some of this stuff too, and like the algorithms and the targeting, all that will get smarter. But like there's going to always be people that just rebel against that. So there's always going to be a market to speak to those people. I just, there's one, I just need to put it in here somewhere. But so in terms of like retargeting stuff and its limitations, I read a joke somewhere one time of like, it was like a meme. Like I ordered, my door broke. So I went, to Home Depot and ordered like a door hinge. And then for like the next 2 weeks on the internet, I'm getting served ads like, join the hinge club for people who love door hinges. And like, it's like, no, I just need a fucking door hinge like in that moment, But like because my buying activity like showed it like
I thought you joined.
Like, well, I'm a hinger, but yeah.
Jared's been sending you advice.
So
he's been part of it for months.
So when I think about like print media or digital media, like I think it's all going to exist for as long as we're alive. But
yeah,
it's interesting to think about how digital media has inserted itself into traditional media. So you've got, traditional billboard, now digital boards. So like those become cheaper.
Yeah.
And you have like, take direct mail. There's like you can do promotional packaging, stuff like that when you open it up, it has like a video that plays to you. Like it's expensive, but it's still injecting digital into
or like
that.
QR codes, like were
QR
such
codes,
a big thing for a while.
AR on like bus posters stuff.
AR, I feel like in this, like that's the thing. All this, like it doesn't move backwards, but the stuff that is behind you doesn't go away necessarily either. But like, I mean, the future of driverless cars is coming. So then all of a sudden, I'm not driving the car, so I can leisurely look at billboards. I'll probably be able to like reach out and like click it, and it will like open a hologram in my driverless car, and I'll get like that's a bit preposterous, but maybe not. Like
to take it even further, print media becomes a little bit cheaper because of digital technology that like is like digital printers. So like it's not like it's no longer like a four color, 5 color, some sort of offset print job. We can do it cheaper through using a digital printer. So you're still getting something printed, but it was done in a digital way. Like it's hurt your head.
Technology.
But I think the game that we're in, it's like it's our job to continue to be paying attention to these things and have some understanding of what works and why it works and how we can try to get it to work better. And it's some combination of targeting, of creative, of budget. It's an alchemy to a certain extent.
Sure. But before we wrap up, I kind of was curious. One point that we didn't get to on here was bad advertisement. So like these kind of things of like redundant advertisement. And you kind of mentioned this before, and I want to jump in. When you talked about like, someone can use like $100 on digital and make like a wave from that. But people can spend a lot of money on digital and have it go horribly, horribly wrong. I'm curious if you guys have any like horror stories or like really bad ads that were served to you that you're just like, I can't believe someone thought this was a good idea.
Well, I mean, the worst ad is one that doesn't work. So,
the worst ad is one that actively offends.
Well, that's true, and then it hurts your brand beyond just the goal of that campaign. But I think like if I'm looking at an ad that I just don't like visually, there's no call to action, if the messaging is off for me, whatever, I might think it's bad, but that's subjective because maybe they're killing it over here.
True.
So like,
true.
Like how are we measuring success? Like their measurement of success versus my measurement of success. I'm like, man, they're not going to do well with this.
Right.
I don't really know that. Maybe they've targeted some audiences that just don't care how it looks. They don't care how the message what the messaging is. I don't know. Colin's smiling because it might be him.
No, I'm smiling.
I don't care, Alex.
I'm smiling because it's an audience of Hoggy the Doggies, which is an inside joke, which means nothing to you, gentle listener. So
I don't care. I'll click it.
I don't care.
Yeah, that's Hoggy.
Colin, do you have any examples off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I've had some time to think about it and still couldn't get there. I think for me, it would be, and again, this is, again, somewhat professionally motivated, but like, so creative is super important and all that, but like, the data game and the targeting game is more where my professional interests lie, at least, in the current iteration of my life. And I would say that, so even that the door hinge example that I gave,
sure,
that is wasted spend, because it's like, or anything where people, anytime where I am retargeted and anything, and I convert, and I'm still served up ads selling this to me, and I'm like,
that's insane.
I bought. Leave me alone.
That's enough.
Yeah. Right.
I'll click through an ad, and like I said, advertising works on me. I'll consume it in every way, on the front end, on the back end. I'll take it all the way through the entire conversion path until like the sign up or whatever,
sure, just
to see where it went. Because like it's beyond just like that click, which I think is what Colin's getting at. It's like what happens after I made it. I opened that door. Now what are you?
Right.
Where are you taking me?
Yeah.
Like, how much more are you going to sell me to like actually do what you want me to do?
Yeah.
Because clicking is one thing, getting somebody to fully convert is another thing, and like that's what's going to make it good or bad.
Patiently awaiting that email code. Like, hey, come on back, please.
I'm signing up for Colin for so many things. I don't know why I've never done that.
And also, podcast listeners, Rob said his email address, so please sign Colin up for as many.
We should bleep it out for real.
Yeah, we should. It's my real email address. So, yeah.
What if we bleeped it out, but with Rob's email address?
Now we're talking. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Cooking with gas here. All right.
Rob@rob.com. That's it.
Rob basketball star at hotmail.com.
That was a long time ago, all right? Leave me alone.
Well, all right.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening to the episode. We really hope you enjoy it, and stick around and come back for the next one.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate everyone kind of giving us their time on this platform. Please stay up to date with us. Follow us on Instagram at Mr. Smith Agency. Check out all of our work there. Also, visit our website, mrsmith.agency.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.